Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So your ustads have organised a nice little practical for you guys today. Yeah? So you're looking forward to it? So it's going to be something different, and I hope you're feeling brave because we're going to be handling some interesting creatures today. Some really important creatures to build soil and to build life. Right? So, first of all, thank you to Mullah Sulaiman Sahab and your ustads for inviting me here today, and thank you to you guys for listening. So I hope you're all ready to learn. Yeah, this is going to be a different kind of learning, not one that you're used to. So we're going to be outside, and we're going to try and fix your car park area and make it into a beautiful garden for you in the future, inshallah. So while you're at this school, you're in year 7 now, aren't you? So while you're in this school and you're going through from year 7 all the way to year 11, you can see this garden turn into something nice and beautiful for you to look at, and for you to get some nice food from as well. Fruit and fresh fruit, vegetables, there's nothing more nutritious than getting fresh that you've grown yourself, that you've grown in a way that is organic, without chemicals. We don't need chemicals. Yeah, we can grow everything naturally without chemicals, and we can grow it from your waste. You know, from the waste that you guys make. Every single one of us has, makes a lot of waste in our life. We buy cereal. We have cardboard boxes left over. We have food. We don't always finish it because we're too full. What do we do with the waste food? Yeah, we throw it in the bin. And what happens when we throw stuff in the bin? It goes off to landfill. In a lot of places it goes off to landfill, and what happens in landfill, has anyone seen a landfill site, a picture of a landfill site? So what happens with a landfill site? Come on, speak up. Yeah?
What happens with a landfill site?
Landfill, do you know what landfill is?
What happens is it's just like, basically a flat area, a land, right?
Yeah.
And then just like rubbish everywhere, like rubbish, plastic bags, rubbish everywhere. There's no spot where there's no rubbish.
Absolutely, that's what happens with landfill. So it's a big hole in the ground. Gee, what do you want to say?
Like that scene in Toy Story when you throw that.
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's like that scene in Toy Story where all the rubbish is just thrown in one place. So that's what happens with all the food and all the cardboard and all the other waste things that we can recycle go, right? And when it goes there, what starts happening, it starts rotting. And when it rots, it releases a gas called methane. Who knows what methane is? Go on.
It's like this gas that
Speak up, I can't hear
like
you.
this gas that
That you go crazy, okay. Go on.
and also, it's highly explosive. I don't recommend.
It's highly explosive, that's very right.
So I don't recommend going anywhere near it.
So methane is that gas, that you cook with at home. So the gas that comes out your cooker, that's methane. Yeah. But the bad thing about methane, so methane's good because we can use it like that and cook with and stuff like that. But there's bad things about it as well because it's a really, really bad greenhouse gas, and it continues to warm the planet, and the planet gets warmed up, and the environment gets worse for us to live in and to grow things in. Okay, so that's the bad thing about methane. So rather than sending things off to landfill and sending it off to an anaerobic process where it breaks down and releases all these rotten gases, what we can do is we can start using all that waste material and turn it into soil and turn it into good, nutritious material that you can grow food in. And I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay? So is everyone ready to do a practical? Yeah. So we're going to build a compost pile. We're going to build 2 types of compost piles. We're going to build one compost pile where you can throw lots of stuff in. Just throw it in, and it'll pile up and it'll break down slowly. I'll show you how to do it. And the other compost pile that we're going to do is a special type of composting. You have to be a little bit more careful with this. And it's called vermicomposting. Does anyone know what vermicomposting is? Go on. MashaAllah, that's absolutely brilliant. How did you know that? Vermi sounds like worm. Fantastic. It is. Jay?
Vermi sounds like vermin.
It is. You're absolutely right. See, vermicomposting is made out of worms. It's compost made out of worms. So what we do is we pile, like you said, we pile all the apples up, and all the waste food that you don't eat. We put that in, and then we put the worms to work. The worms go in, and they eat everything. All the waste that you guys, so all the waste that you guys have left over, the worms will go in and eat it, and then they'll digest it, and then they do make something called worm castings. What's that?
Is worm casting like a nickname for worm poo?
Is worm castings a nickname for worm poo? Yes, it is. You've got some smart kids here, mashallah. Brilliant. Jay. Yeah, it turns into soil, and do you know what the special thing about worm castings is? Go on, you can speak. It's okay.
Is it the saliva?
Close. What happens with worm castings is it's full of bacteria. You know, full of really good bacteria. You know that. Go on.
It's full of bacteria and enzymes that like help digest the fruit, and then they make it all and then they compost leaves. Then you can use it as fertilizer.
Absolutely, very good. So the worms eat all the food. They eat all the rotten apples. They eat all the rotten vegetables that you've thrown in there, and the paper and all of that sort of stuff. And then they make worm poo, worm castings. Yeah, and then you can take that worm castings and you can supercharge your garden. So because it's so full of bacteria and so full of nutrients, you can supercharge your garden, and it makes your vegetables and your plants grow really big. Yeah? Do you know recently there were two twin girls. They grew the biggest, so there were two twin girls, a little bit younger than you, and they grew the biggest pumpkin in the UK this year. So maybe inshallah this year you guys can have a go at growing something absolutely huge. What do you think? Ustadji, would you be ready for that?
Inshallah.
MashaAllah. So your Ustadjis have called me here because we do a YouTube channel. Yeah. And on our YouTube channel we do lots of gardening programs, and we teach people how to garden and how to grow fruits and how to grow vegetables. So we're on social media quite a bit. Social media can be good because we can learn from it, but it's also very dangerous. It can be an environment where a lot of bad can come from it. What you'll see on social media, a lot of it is not real. Yeah, because just like I'm videoing today, right? I'm videoing today, and what happens on a video is a lot of people edit things. So they'll take things out, put things in, and hide things, show you something that's completely made up. Because it's a made-up world, is social media. So you've got to be careful when you watch things. So some people might show that they drive really fancy cars, or they might have lots and lots of money, or they might have big houses. But do you know what happens when people are famous on YouTube as well? Is people send them, companies send them things and say, okay, you can drive my car for a few days. So they drive the car and they pretend it's theirs. So that's one of the dangerous things about social media, and it creates, when we're watching social media, yeah, we've got to be careful and realise that not everything is real, not everything that we see is real. Okay? Because it can create that kind of environment where we start thinking, oh, we want that flash car, or we want that fat house, or we want that sick ride, yeah? You want to do all of these things. But really, these people are not real. You've got to remember that. So everyone likes to see someone who's happy, don't they? So they pretend that they're really happy, where really they're really upset and really lonely inside. So the things that matter, what really matters, is having your family that's close to you, having your ustads that are close to you. Yeah, make sure you're close to your ustadjis. Make sure you're learning from them. Make sure you're learning. You're close to your friends and family, and you look after each other. That's the most important thing that we've got in our life. That's what our deen, what our beautiful deen teaches us. we look after people and look after each other. Who's done gardening before?
Never.
What do you look good? Well, you have to.
One person's talking, it's nice for everyone else. It's nice for everyone to listen to the person who's talking. Okay, go on, what were you saying?
Basically, I used to do gardening because I used to get out worms and put these birds all used to talk.
G? Moles. Here, I don't think we're going to have trouble with moles.
All my moles back.
Mashallah, you two brothers? Cousins? So, what were you going to say? So, all this area, you can see there's green. So it's a bit messy at the moment. It's quite messy and it's got a lot of weeds and stuff at the moment. But what you're going to do is you're going to take all that back. You're going to weed it all. You're going to take all that back and build yourselves a nice, beautiful garden. And if you want, I can come back again. We can start working on it and fixing it up. Today, what we're going to start doing is the most important thing, and we're going to start getting our setup ready to make our soil. So if we start with that, start making our soil, then when we've got it all ready and we've cleaned everything, then we can just make it, break that and plant into it. Does that make sense? Yeah? So what we'll be a good idea is if we start with a little bit at a time, so we clean it all up, make it look nice and pretty, and make it into a nice garden. G?
Are we going to dig all of these weed up?
Not today, but you're going to do that with your stages, I think. It's going to be a plan for you and your stages to do. You can do that instead of you can do that for your PE or your science lesson. Everyone having fun today? G. This is what we can do. We can make learning into something that's fun.
You just skip lessons all the time and do courses.
No, you can't skip lessons. You've got to learn your schooly stuff as well, because that's really important. In gardening, you've got a mix of biology and you've got a mix of chemistry.
What did I say?
G. So what you've got, you're going to have. So one of the important things is that you've got to look at soil pH. Does anyone know what pH means? What pH does or what pH measures? Does anyone know that? pH, the pH scale, it goes from 1 to 14. Yeah, and it's a measure of how acidic or how alkaline something is. Okay, pH 7 is around neutral. And the higher the pH, anything higher than 7 is something that's alkaline in solution, and something lower than 7 is getting acidic. Something that's pH 1 is extremely acidic. Something that's pH 14 is extremely alkaline, and those things will melt things. Okay, so they can be very dangerous. So. Do you know what? I bet you're consuming some kind of acid every single day.
Oh yeah.
What's it called? Cola. The way the composting process works is that you mix materials in a way that it's going to break down. So we focus a lot on two types of material: carbon material and nitrogen material. Okay. So when you get the ratio right of carbon to nitrogen, break down in a way that's... Remember what I said about landfill sites? Landfill sites are anaerobic and they're going to release methane. Now the way we're going to make compost is we're going to break down the material, but we're going to do it in an aerobic process. It doesn't release methane, but it will release some carbon dioxide, because a lot of material, when it gets exposed to the air, it oxidizes. Who knows what oxidize means? G. Exactly, but more, not just with the air, but with oxygen. So a reaction that happens when things mix together with oxygen, and it produces an oxide. So one of the most common oxides, G. Blood?
Yeah, in the body and then
No. Your blood carries oxygen, but it doesn't become oxidized. Okay. So, has anyone ever seen rust? Anyone ever seen rust? If you look on that container, you see that orange stuff at the top? Yeah, that orangey brown stuff. That's called iron oxide. called iron oxide, and that's what we call rust. So when things start getting eaten up and rotting away, they sometimes oxidize, and that's what happens with carbon. So like you're digging there with your feet, now you're exposing the soil to the air. Now what will happen with that, some of that will oxidize and will make carbon dioxide. And that's one of the reasons that digging soil is quite bad. Do you know when farmers are actually digging soil, they're destroying the soil? Because what happens is the soil gets oxidized, and all the carbon that was in the soil, you lose that. Okay? So that's one of the bad things about digging soil. So we're going to garden in a way that we don't have to dig things, that we can build the soil on top. That's what we don't want to happen to the carbon in our soil. What we want to do is, I'm going to use a big word, it's called sequester. We want to sequester carbon. So what sequester carbon, what does sequester mean? Does anyone know? G? No, sequestering is taking something from one place and putting it somewhere else. So what we want to do is sequester carbon, and what that means is we take the carbon from the air, carbon dioxide, and we put it into the soil. And if we do that, if we take the carbon from the air and we put it into the soil, we can start reversing climate change. Yeah, absolutely, we can start reversing, just like that. It's a magic way of us reversing carbon, climate change. See that big tree over there, right? Now these trees do something absolutely amazing.
They give us oxygen. Give us oxygen.
They give us oxygen, but how? How do they give us oxygen? Come on.
Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis, yes. What's photosynthesis?
Oh, I know.
Go on.
It's basically like when all the chloroplasts and all the chlorophyll in leaves basically like take in sunlight.
MashaAllah. What do they take from there? What does photosynthesis do? It takes out.
Oxygen.
Come on, get involved with me. You know him, get involved with me. What do the leaves take out the air? Come on, we were just talking about it. No, they give oxygen. What do they take? Go on.
They take in sunlight and carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide and sunlight, yes, mashallah.
And they release oxygen.
And they release oxygen. So through photosynthesis, they take out oxygen from the air, carbon dioxide from the air, and they release oxygen, and they build. See, they take all that carbon dioxide and they build their body strength with it. So they turn it into some kind of sugar and all kinds of food for the plants. So they grow into big, strong trees. And that's what they're doing. They're sequestering carbon, and that's what we can do. You know, with all these plants, we can. This is one of the things that I teach on my channel, is that we can take things from the air. You know, we grow the plants, and instead of throwing them away, and instead of digging the soil, we can either compost the plants when we're finished with them, and turn them into nice growing soil, or we can add them to the soil that's already there and build more soil. And you see all these weeds behind me? What do you think they are? Weeds, rubbish, waste. Weeds and plants. See, I think they're going to be good material to build your soil. I see all that green stuff, and I see stuff that's going to build your soil. What we're going to do is we're going to try and clear this little patch of area here. Okay, stop, everyone stop. Everyone listening? So our job is to clear this area here. Stinging nettles are a very beneficial plant for our compost, and they're very beneficial for our garden. But you don't want to get that to rub on your skin, because you can end up with... Oh no, you don't want that. You don't want that.
So what do they do?
So what I'm going to do, I've got 2 rakes, and whoever can answer these questions the fastest, they're going to start. So everyone's going to get a turn, so don't worry about that. We just take it in turns, okay? So what process do trees do to make oxygen? Just shout it out. You're in charge of rate number 1. What does vermicomposting mean?
What?
See, I said just shout it out, just shout it out. So, come on.
I'm in charge.
Jay? He's only going to do it for a little bit. You're going to take over and get, everyone's going to get a turn, don't worry. There's lots of work to do. Who knows what this plant is here?
It's a flower.
Tulip.
This one.
A tulip.
It's not a tulip.
Mint.
It's called clover.
Oh.
Now, this is an amazing plant. You see these purple flowers? They're really good for bees. So they're good for pollinating insects. So bees and different things like that. They'll come and feed off the nectar on these. But should I tell you what the special thing about clover is? So it takes nitrogen from the air and fixes it to the soil. And do you know what? Nitrogen is one of those ingredients in the soil that's really important for plants to grow well. So if the plant's got lots and lots of nitrogen in, then it grows well. So what we're not going to do is we're not going to kill all this clover. We're going to try and rake some of the weeds out in between, but we're not going to kill this clover, okay? So it's good to have the clover here. It's a good pioneer plant that's going to help us build our soil.
Don't you need like an electrical weed whacker?
You don't need that. You've got muscles.
I told you.
You've got muscles. You've got muscles. Yeah, you got two on your arm. You've got one this side here and one this side here. That's not part of our character, is it? Yeah?
If you kill the insect, then I kill the tree can't be half big.
So now it's time to put our pallet bin and our compost pile together. So the first thing that we're going to do is we've got these pallets. So I want 2 volunteers. Whose name starts with a A?
Me.
Okay, you. Whose name starts with a Z?
Me.
You, come on.
No way, that's chicken macaroni.
Come on, help him.
Auntie.
Don't let him do it by himself. That's it. Good, mashallah. Excellent. Now get it straight.
Put this day.
So this doesn't have to be perfect, okay? None of this stuff has to be perfect. All we do is make a nice shape, enough to hold our material, and that's good enough. Okay? Easy. What we're going to do is we're going to tie these corners. So you feed it in around there. So let's go lower, let's go lower, let's go lower, go lower. Now go into there. Go into there. No, no, around there, round. Other way. Yeah, that way. Down, lower, lower, lower. Into there. Yes, that's it. Now come around the back, and I want it right the back, way back.
That's too small.
Good. MashaAllah.
Start like that.
Wait. So there. Now we're going to tie it together.
Alright, I'll tell you what this.
Yeah. Take a bit more. Take a bit more.
There, stop. Where my finger is.
That's it. Good. There we go. There we go. That's it.
Yay! Start like that.
So now, wait 1 second. Now I'm going to tie this together. Okay? Don't worry. There's lots of work to do. There's lots of work to do. Take it round the back. Round the back. Hold it round the back of here. Okay? Come on up. That's it. Get it round the back. Now take it across. Now can you tie it together? All this rubbish that you've got together. Now get all that in there. Okay, get all that in there. So all of this, put it all in there, put it all in there. So all of this stuff, rake it in. That's it. That's it. Don't worry about how it is. This is a compost bin. So the best way to do it is to stack brown stuff and stack green stuff. So brown stuff is the stuff that's full of carbon, and the green stuff is full of nitrogen. So the best way to do it is stack lots and lots of brown stuff, lots and lots of green stuff, and in layers. Everyone, are you paying attention? What are you doing with those scissors? Are you doing something you shouldn't be?
Can I stand?
That's it, mashallah. So now you put the brown stuff on top, and this is how we're going to make this. See, now what we need to do, if it wasn't autumn, then what I'd say is water this now. So it needs water, it needs green, brown and water, okay? But it's going to rain soon, probably in the next couple of days it'll rain. And what you're going to keep doing every day is you're going to come and stack more stuff on top. Okay? And if this gets into a big pile, then what we could even do is we can compost food. But I wouldn't recommend composting food in an open bin like this. We're going to do that in the worm bin. So come on, let's go make the worm. So I'm going to put a slip knot on this one. Look, a slip knot is like when you do your shoelaces. So just like when you do your shoelaces, and then when you come, you pull that and it comes off. And the reason that we do it like this as a slip knot is so we can open this one like a door. All of this inside. And that's all going to break down as we make some nice soil for it. What I brought with me, I brought some, look, you're going to make soil out of something that's really waste. All this is shredded paper. So I shredded all the rubbish paper that comes to my house. I shred that up and then we'll put it in like this, and this is going to be our compost, this is going to be our worm. You know. You found some rotten nanbirds and stuff. Put that in. Now, this doesn't have to go in the bin and go off to landfill to become anaerobic. This can be food for worms. So we found this on the floor. Now we're going to feed this to our worms, okay?
So they're worms.
So what I brought with me from home, okay? These small pieces. Okay. I'll tell you how to do it in a minute. So look at this here, worms here. So I brought something from home. This is from my own worm bin, and these are a special kind of worm. They're not just the normal earthworms. They're not the ordinary earthworms. These are a special kind of worm. These are called red wrigglers. Okay. Now, don't worry, you're going to see lots in a minute. So look at that. So these are called red wrigglers, and these are a type.
It's worms.
Look at that.
Order them. Can I eat one?
Everyone have a look. Can we pick one up? These are your friends. These are your friends in the gardening world. And it's really important that we make space for everyone, because that's about respect, isn't it? G. So look. So all I've got in here, I've got lots and lots of red wrigglers. Look how wriggly he is. Now they're all going to move into their new home. Now the special thing about red wrigglers is they eat the food that's on the top of the soil. They don't eat the food inside the soil. So whatever's on the top of the soil, that's what they're going to eat. So we've got some paper there. Now worms don't like light. But this needs to be a little bit wet, so we need to put a little bit of water in here. But you can do that afterwards, okay? But now what we're going to do is we're going to take this cardboard. We're going to just layer it on top like this. So where's the rest of my cardboard? Come on, boys.
Are you going to put what bit of that water on top of it?
Gee, that's good. So who else has got cardboard?
So is this a new home?
This is going to be your new worm bin, okay? Yeah. Save all that. You're not going to use it yet. Okay, you're going to need this for afterwards. Now what you're going to do is after dinner, if you've got any food waste, you're going to put the food waste on top. Give this cardboard a little sprinkle with some water, and then you're going to cover it with cardboard again, just like I've done here. And the worms will come up, they'll eat it, and then every few days, just fill it up like that. Just a little bit of water, not too much. And the worms will keep multiplying, and they'll have babies, and they'll grow, and they'll grow, and they'll grow, and you'll have lots and lots of worms in here. So we keep these bits of cardboard, safe, and we're going to add these when we've done the next layer of food. Okay? So can you all manage that without me?
Yeah!
MashaAllah, fantastic. Normally what I'd do is I'd drill some holes into the top of this lid, but because this lid's got broken, there's plenty of air getting in, and I don't want it to get too wet, so we'll leave it like that, okay? But what we'll do is we'll put it next to our pallet bin, and then it's all safe. That's it. That's as simple as it is to make compost.
How long do they take?
So when that's full up and the worms have eaten everything, you're going to have nice compost there, and you're going to have nice compost here. So what I want you to do is slowly, when your stages say, you're going to take all that and pile it inside here. It's all going to break down, okay? It's amazing, isn't it? Who's enjoyed it?
Me.
Okay, let's call it a day there. We'll leave it there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam.
Right.